Good evening. I'd like to call this meeting, Lancaster County Council, to order. I asked it.
We're not that live.
Now we're live.
I ain't gonna deal with Brian tonight.
I hit the wrong button. Okay,
Are we ready now?
ready now.
I call this meeting of the Lancaster County Board of Zoning Appeals to order. And I will ask our secretary if she will to call the roll, please.
Carrie Alden,
Here.
Mark Bolin,
Present.
James Falconberry,
Here.
and Charles Deese.
Here.
Okay, we have a quorum. There's no one absent.
Thank you. The Board of Zoning Appeals and Planning and Zoning Departments want to welcome each of you here tonight. By attending this meeting, we hope that you get some information as to how the system handles each of the applications that come to us, because believe me, no two of them are the same. You have heard the roll call. We have members of the Board of Zoning Appeals, Mr. Gary Alden, Mr. James Falconberry, Mr. Mark Bolin, and myself, Charles Deese. And we'll ask that members of the staff, if they will, to stand and introduce themselves, give the audience what you actually do for Lancaster County, and if you will, remain standing and be sworn in.
Good evening. My name is April Williams. I'm the Planning Director for Lancaster County.
Good evening. I'm Allison Harden. I'm Development Services Director for Lancaster County.
Okay, at this time, would you please raise your right hand, and do you solemnly swear to testify the testimony you're about to give is the truth and nothing but the truth? Thank you.
Thank you. Members of the board, you have received copies of the packet for tonight's meeting and the meeting that we held earlier. Have all of you got that packet, and have you had an opportunity to review it?
I have. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Thank you. The next order of business then would be to approve the agenda. You have that agenda in front of you, I hope, and I will entertain a motion at this time.
So moved.
I have a motion from Mr. Alden
Second.
and a second from Mr. Falconberry. All in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you. Has staff made it possible for all the applicants or appellants to receive information of the meeting?
Yes, we have.
Your mic's not working well. Have all adjacent property owners within the required limits been notified?
Yes, sir.
Was there a notice of the meeting published in the local newspaper to include the meeting place, time, date, and the agenda?
Yes.
Is there a copy posted in the lobby of the administration building?
Yes.
Thank you. The Board of Zoning Appeals duties are within three specific limits. Administrative review, which is an appeal of an order or a decision made by administration that has an alleged error. The power to grant a variance, which is given to the Board of Zoning Appeals by the state of South Carolina. Variances may be granted when strict application of the zoning ordinance would cause unnecessary hardship, and the granting of the variance would not cause substantial detriment to adjacent properties or the public good. Special exceptions are permitted uses within a zoning district but require a public hearing prior to granting final approval. Public hearings are granted to review or conducted to review comments and information both for and against the proposed application. This is done during the public portion of the meeting. All interested parties will be given the opportunity to speak and give factual information, not hearsay, or present factual documentation. The opinion and hearsay is absolutely inadmissible. All persons wishing to speak will sign the register prior to speaking, and all persons speaking will be placed under oath. At this time, we will move to the first item that is on the agenda tonight. Is variance 2025-0022, Worldwide Premier Investments, LLC. Ms. Williams?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Okay. Tonight we have the first request for a variance from Worldwide Premier Investments. This is a variance from the UDO section 5.2.7.b, which is the age limit to allow permitting for a mobile home. The address of the subject parcel is 2086 Santa Barbara Drive with the associated tax map number there. As you can see from the map on the screen, this is the location of the property. Ms. Simpson is speaking on behalf of Worldwide Premier Investments tonight on her side of the case. The proposal is to allow the mobile home to get a permit to connect to utilities. As a background for the information, the mobile home was permitted and moved to this location in 2020. At that time, the age limit was within the UDO code, and they were able to get the permit there. They moved the mobile home to the property, but for reasons that they can explain later, they did not take the utility connections. So the property has sat vacant and unconnected to utilities since they moved it to the property. The permit that they had to connect to utilities expired 180 days after their application, and they did not renew that. The code in section here at 5.2.7b states that the manufactured homes built earlier than 30 years of the current year shall not be permitted. Existing manufactured homes older than 30 years shall remain, but if removed, each manufactured home shall be replaced with those built no earlier than 30 years from the current year. So this one is considered now, it is in the 33rd year, so it's out of the scope of the UDO. The mobile home is already located on the lot. They just need the permit to connect the utilities. And here's I knew there was an age there. It's a 1992 Redmond, and the title here is, we verified that certificate of title. So it is outside of the range of the 30-year limit to have those utilities. They applied for the new permits to start the connection and the utilities in October of 2024. The zoning staff reviewed this, and because it was outside of the UDO, we're not allowed to grant this permits. So then they came, which is their right to appeal to the BZA to request that variance of age. We were concerned of the status of the property from the pictures that we had from posting. It didn't look beautiful. But we sent our code enforcement officers out there to do an inspection on site to make sure that it was not in violation. The code enforcement came back to us and said that there were some repairs that would have to be done, but they were fully confident that it could be updated to be renovated with no compliance issues. So our staff, basically, we do not have the right to grant items outside of the UDO. This was obviously clearly not in the scope of our current UDO, and that's why we're bringing it to you.
Thank you. Any questions for staff?
Charles, I think I have.
Yes, Mr. Alden.
Sorry. I'll get it in front of me. Is that better? I'm really curious about the comment, Alice, on the code enforcement folks. So it's item number 9 on my page 6. And it appears like, as I interpret that if this was fixed, that it could pass code. Am I reading that okay?
Yes, they said that they were confident that with repairs, that there's no doors, there's no windows in the current dwelling. If those are replaced, it could be brought up, and they could give them a CO for it after that. It's kind of the egg before the chicken. It's hard to make those repairs if there's no utilities, those kind of things out there. So.
Okay, so all of that means is that while being repaired, whoever showed up needed to bring their own power and power tools and that kind of thing, if I'm right. Okay, thank you.
Ms. Williams, I'm a little bit conflicted on this. I've got 2 separate addresses.
On where?
The address on the deed, or the plat drawing from the engineer, is at 2115 Pinta Drive, which the driveway is on Pinta Drive. The application is for 2086 Santa Barbara Drive. I would like to know which is accurate.
Okay, I can run check it on the assessor's page to see what the tax map number is consistent with
Tax
that.
map number shows 2115. The grantee address, 2115 Pinta Drive, has exactly the same tax map number as the 2086 Santa Barbara.
So if they both share a
Got
tax
it in
map
the
number,
documents.
that would be an addressing issue that I could clarify.
Thank you.
It's on the corner.
At this time, we are in public hearing, and when I call your name, if you wish to speak, yes, Allison? Yes, I'm sorry. Does the applicant have anything they would like to offer at this time? Yes, ma'am. Please come forward, give your name and address for the record.
My name is Erica Simpson. My address is P.O. Box 3207, Lancaster, South Carolina 29721.
Okay.
I did bring pictures for you to see the interior, because I know that the...
Oh, 1 second. Let's get you sworn in. I'm
Oh, sorry.
Okay, hold your right hand up. Okay,
Please.
please raise your right hand. Do you, Erica, solemnly affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry.
Oh, that's okay. I did want to give, I don't know if I can approach, or do they need to give you the pictures that I brought, a copy for each person?
Please give them to Ms. Williams.
So that you could see the interior, where there's only minor cosmetic work that is needed on the property, and that you can see the interior.
Pardon me for not looking at this, but I've been in it.
Oh, okay. So, and there is one correction. There are some windows there, and there is a front door, but the back door, due to it being vacant, there has been some vandalism to the property.
Great.
But I'm requesting that you give this variance based on the fact of agreeing with the inspector who went out that says that they feel as though it's very easily to make this in compliance with code. I am working with a GC, a general contractor, who will ensure that everything is done according to code in order to install the utilities. There's no risk of this property. I think on the staff comment, it stated that I was asking to relocate it, but we're not asking to relocate it. And actually, this is a replacement for a property that was there prior to my ownership. So this is a replacement, and I feel as though that the 3-year difference isn't going to cause a major issue. And I feel as though if we are granted a permit, that we would be able to fix it within the permit period, now that we have sufficient staff and labor to actually carry out what needs to be done to make this property affordable housing, to help with the county's affordable housing shortage, because there's not enough affordable housing, and the rent on this property would be affordable for the median income in the area.
You just answered my question. It's going to be rental property.
It is.
Okay. Anything else?
Did you have any other questions that you wanted to ask me?
I did have a question about the time that you moved the property there until now, what that time difference, what transpired during that time difference? I guess it's been sitting there for 4 years?
Yes, it actually, I wasn't the person that actually moved it. I purchased the property with the permit, and we were at the height of COVID during this ownership transition period. So they had the property actually moved to the location. It was on site when I purchased it.
So your purchase date was October 2020?
I can get you the exact date.
That's what's showing on the deed here. That's,
Oh, okay. I didn't have the deed in front of me.
okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm good.
I'd like to jump in for just a second. Erica, when you purchased this, I want to get this in my head. You purchased the property and another home that was there, and then that home was replaced with this one?
No, the home that is currently on site now was the replacement for the property that was prior to my ownership.
Okay.
And so this property, I purchased this particular property on this lot, and it was a replacement for the one that was prior to two ownerships prior to my ownership. So there was two ownerships prior. They had a mobile home there. Then someone else purchased the property and put this replacement property, and they never executed or never finished. They had it set up, the foundation, you can see that it's on the center blocks the way it's supposed to be and everything, but they never connected the utilities. So that's where the issue came in now, that we're trying to connect the utilities, and then we're requesting that you grant this not only for the affordable housing issue, but the beautification of the neighborhood. It conforms with the neighborhood. There's more mobile homes around there, and right now this one is a particular eyesore, but once we get finished with it, it will be a great place for somebody to live. And when families have stability, education comes with that stability of giving somebody somewhere that they can, appreciate, because there are other homeowners around there as well as tenants, but there are more, according to my information, there are more homeowners than renters, so that provides like a family setting for people that can afford this. And right now we're in a shortage of affordable housing, and we have people that are interested in this property that want to occupy it, so it won't continue to sit vacant.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
All right, thank you.
Now we will consider ourselves in public hearing. Any further questions for staff or FL? Before we go into public hearing?
One question for staff.
Yes, sir. Mr. Fogberry?
If this, or with this application, does that have to be repaired before you actually get the power or get the application approved? Does property have to be repaired first?
Yes, this variance is to allow the permit for the utilities. They would have to get a certificate of occupancy prior to anybody moving in, and that would be
Just-
regarding all the work done. Yep.
Thank you.
See you necessary. Yes, sir. Ms. Williams?
Can you expand upon what utilities we're talking about? Is it public water, sewer, or is it well and septic?
I don't know.
It's on public water and Duke Power is the.
Public water and sewer.
It's on a septic.
All right, Ms. Williams. We'll tie you.
That's not our code enforcement. That would be with the DEH, or whatever the new letters are for DHEC, DES. Yeah.
Department of Environmental Services.
Environmental service. Is that it? Thank you, Ms. Williams. At this time, we will go into public hearing. When your name is called, if you wish to speak further, please come forward, give your name and address one more time, but you've already been sworn in. Ms. Erica Simpson.
Oh, I'm sorry, I did register again, but I didn't know if they were going to allow me to speak as an applicant or with that.
That's fine. Thank you.
Thank you.
We will consider ourselves out of public hearing then. Board members, you have heard from staff, you have heard from the applicant. Is there any discussion? There's 3 actions, of course, that we'll go into. Mr. Alden.
I'd like to seek your advice. I have a concern about the condition of the septic tank, and is that beyond the purview of what we're actually considering tonight?
Yes, sir.
It is, so that
It is.
that doesn't matter.
Well, that's,
Well, it matters.
if there's a problem with that, then it will be basically between the homeowner or and DHEC, or Environmental Services as it's called today, but they're the only ones that handle septic tanks.
Okay.
And it being where it's at, and believe me, I didn't see any evidence of a problem from what I saw, which would be above-ground problems. I can't see below the surface, so. But that would be entirely up to the occupant, the owner, and Environmental Services. You're welcome. Anything else? Any further discussion? Yes, sir, Mr. Alden. Go right ahead. Not a problem. I think slow too. That would be, we would actually do the variance first. They will not get a certificate to occupy that trailer until it is repaired. You can put the condition on it. Yeah, they will be looking at it more than once. Before a CO is issued, there'll be no utilities actually put in service until a CO is issued. That is, when I say CO, I'm referring to certificate of occupancy. So. Anything else? Anyone else? Hearing none, board members, there are 3 actions that can be taken. You can postpone the vote until the next meeting, March 4, 2025, if the information that you've got is not sufficient for the board to make a decision. You can approve it or deny the variance as presented. You can approve it with stipulations and conditions. So at this time, either a motion to approve or a motion to approve with conditions brings the question to a vote on the 4 criteria, variance criteria. I have a motion to approve. Do I have a second? A second brings it to the floor for discussion. Hearing no second, then the motion does not pass. Is there a further motion? We need a motion to bring it to the floor. Are there further motions? Hearing no motion at all, then the applicant and the application will fail with the lack of a motion to approve or deny. There are 4 criteria which, in my opinion, are redundant with the denial, but I will read them. After the consideration of the evidence and the arguments presented, the board makes the following findings of fact and conditions. It is the board's conclusion that there are extraordinary and exceptional conditions pertaining to the particular piece of property based on the following findings of fact. It is the board's conclusion that these conditions generally apply to the properties in the vicinity based on the following findings of fact. I would think so too. But it says both. But it does have both. Yes, Ms. Allison. Sure.
Thank you, sir. I believe that I have neglected to guide the Board of Zoning Appeals correctly in how we move forward with actions. There is no option to not have a motion. There needs to be a motion, there needs to be a decision, there needs to be a yes or a no. Because otherwise you can't issue a ruling on it without it coming to a vote to the floor. So and I will say this just as a blanket discussion point, if you don't like the item, it's okay. If you do like the item, it's okay. But you do need to bring something to the floor. And having a motion to approve and having a second doesn't necessarily mean that you will end up approving it. It does mean that there is a motion on the floor. And we can't have a, and I apologize for not bringing this up during our training, it's improper to read out an answer to a question you haven't voted on. So we need you to vote on those 4. So I'll take the responsibility for that and apologize to the chair. And I would like for before you go forward to anything else, to try again on a motion, please.
Tried 3 times, I'll try again.
Yes, sir, please.
Now, disregard everything that's said prior to that.
I'll withdraw my motion.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to deny the variance.
I have a motion to deny the variance. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
I have a motion and a second.
Can you do that, Ms. Harden?
Mr. Bolden made the motion. Mr. Falconberry made the second. I don't know what discussion we're going to have, but let's have discussion at this point. Ms. Harden, please come back. If you have, come back. Don't walk up and walk away.
Apologize. For guidance, you would discuss now your thoughts on the application and your thoughts on the 4 questions. You would discuss each of the 4 questions and say whether they would or would not, or do not apply, and give thoughts behind that, and then vote. Does that make sense?
Makes sense?
Vote on each
Where
4.
are we going?
Does each condition apply or does it not apply, and why? Thank you.
It's the board's conclusion that there are not extraordinary exceptional conditions pertaining to the particular piece of property, or not. Is that the wish of the board? Do I hear a motion on that? Pardon me? Yeah. Do it any way you want.
Mr. Chair, I do not see that this meets the extraordinary or exceptional conditions requirement.
Did not see. That's a no vote. All,
Mr. Boland was on the path. He said he did not see extraordinary and exceptional conditions. You would deliberate. If anybody disagrees, you would want to know that, and take each one as an item, please.
I agree with Mr. Boland. I don't see an extraordinary condition there.
Mr. Alden? I confer also. Then we need to vote on each one of these separately, right?
Yes, sir. Get a poll, please.
All in favor of the motion to, or the yes vote? It's 4-0. It's the board's conclusion that these conditions do or do not generally apply to other properties in the vicinity based on the following findings of fact. And you have heard the facts from staff. Do I hear a comment from anyone? A vote, a motion?
I would just say that the ordinance does apply to all properties. If you've got a 30-year manufactured home, then obviously you can, would have to replace it with a newer version.
Agree, and I did ride the area. I did ride the area, and I don't really think I saw a single one out there that would fit the past the 30-year age. There may be one, but if it is, it's well kept. I have to agree with this. all that had voted yes to this statement, or no to the statement, please? Would you repeat it for me? I said everyone that is in agreement with this statement or in disagreement with this statement. We need 4 people or thereabout.
What's the statement again is what I was asking for, Charles. I don't have a
It's the board's conclusion that these conditions generally do or do not apply to other properties in the vicinity based on the following findings of fact, and you've heard the fact from staff, and you have copies of that in your possession.
Of course. So is a yes, no, or yes vote on this mean that it's a positive yes to proceed? Or is it
A yes vote would say that it is in the same condition as the surrounding properties.
That's not true.
Well, then, pick your poison then.
I was just going to try and help and say that when the original statement was read, it was that the board's conclusion that these conditions do generally apply to others, and then you would vote on whether you agree on that statement or not.
When you say these conditions, are you,
The conditions that the applicant is applying for a variance from, so the 30-year condition.
but these conditions do apply to the properties in the area?
It applies to all of them in the county, yes. And we are all in agreement. Then we're all in agreement on that. They do apply. All right. It's 4-0, everybody agrees with that. Next, it is the board's conclusion that because of the conditions, the application of the ordinance to the particular piece of property would or would not effectively prohibit or unreasonably restrict utilization of the property based on the following findings of fact.
Well, in my opinion, yes, it does prohibit the possible use of this property for having a viable home at that corner.
Any more?
I disagree with that, just from a simple fact of the conditions of the dwelling. It's not per se the real estate. You can actually put another dwelling on that property, and it would not affect the use of that property. So you could take that 30-plus-year-old manufactured home off, replace it with a 25-year-old manufactured home, and it would be a suitable replacement.
I fully agree with that position too.
But basically, just to
Agree.
comply with UDO. I mean, just to comply with the rules that we have.
That is true. Mr. Alden? You're in agreement? Then we have 4-0 again.
On agreeing or disagreeing?
Agree.
That would be a no vote because
Would be a no vote.
So a disagreement?
It does not put the hardship on.
It's not, okay.
All right, then it's the board's conclusion that the authorization of the variance would or would not be of substantial detriment to adjacent properties or the public good, and the character of the district will or will not be harmed by granting the variance based on the following findings of fact, which you have had in writing and in verbals.
I do agree with that statement.
Sorry, guys. We've got two parts of this.
I agree with the fact that granting this variance would not be a detriment to the neighborhood. But granting this variance, depending on what's done to this property, could end up being a detriment to the neighborhood. But from an overall standpoint on this particular number or this particular question, I would say yes, you know.
How do we resolve what appears to be a conflict between Part A and Part B?
I'm not sure there's a resolution. Basically, part 1, 2, 3, and 4 have to all be in agreement.
No, I'm talking about this specific question, Jay. Part A is, yeah, it's okay, this works for the whole neighborhood. Part B is, well, maybe not. I wish that I had a copy. Allison, may I have a copy of what our chairman is looking at? Thank you. I want to see what it is.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Bottom, last item on the page.
Say again.
Last item, page 1 of 2. Pardon me?
That would make it a yes vote from me.
Okay, so number 4 is at the top of the page that I'm looking at.
It's the board's conclusion that the authorization of a variance would or would not be of substantial detriment to adjacent property or the public good, and the character of the district will or will not be harmed by granting the variance based on the findings. They do tie together.
Well, I understand that, so. So that, both of those, in my opinion, is no.
Would not.
Yeah, no.
Would not.
Are you in their favor?
Yes, sir.
Would they agree that it would not be a detriment?
Yeah, I also agree that it would not be a detriment, because we're also going on faith what, if we did grant the variance, that the owner is then responsible for bringing this structure up to current code, which we don't. that-
Which
give
would have.
faith on that.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I agree with that, and we all agree that it would not be a detriment to the community.
Okay, so we're,
Because we feel reasonably sure that code enforcement is going to be pretty specific. They will see that it's brought to code and repaired properly.
okay, so do we have 4 in disagreement?
We do. We have 4 that believe it would not be a detriment.
Okay, so we have 4 in
Yes.
agreement, okay. So for agreement. All right.
Okay? Board members, there are 3 actions which a motion can be made. You can postpone the vote to the next meeting, March 4, 2025, if the information provided is not sufficient for the board to make a decision. It can be approved or deny the variance as it has been presented. You can approve with stipulations or conditions, as has been stated before. So at this time, I will accept a motion. I have a motion to approve the variance from Mr. Halden. Do I have a second? Second brings it to the floor for discussion.
You've already done that.
We've already made the motion, then we voted on the 4 criteria.
We did, I'm sorry. But I'm at the bottom of the same page now. We've already voted on it, so.
The motion was made to deny, and there was a second by Mr. Boland made the motion to deny. Mr. Falconberry made the second. In order for that denial to follow, all 4 criteria had to fail or had to go through to go through the review and find that they were not extraordinary and that the rules do apply in favor of not providing the variance. And I apologize for missing the last vote, but that would be the case. And then at the end, we would collect that information and the motion would pass. So when you went through all 4,
We have gone through all 4.
Are you ready for me to read the count?
Please.
Okay. On count 1, that there are extraordinary and exceptional conditions pertaining to the particular property, there were a vote of 4-0 on disagree. On count 2, that these conditions do not generally apply to other property in the vicinity, we got a vote of 4-0 on agree. On the 3rd criteria, that because of these conditions, the application of the ordinance to the particular property would effectively prohibit or unreasonably restrict the utilization of the property. We got 4-0 on disagree. On criteria 4, that the authorization of a variance not be of substantial deterrent to adjacent property or to the public good, and the character of the district will not be harmed by the granting of this variance. We got a vote of 4-0 on agree.
So it's just split vote.
because all the criteria that you didn't answer in the same for all criteria, the denial, it sits as a denial. Okay.
Since the 4 items were not agreed upon 100%.
Right, we had 2 disagrees and 2 agree. So that variance is denied.
That's right. The variance is denied at this point. All right, the next item is variance 2025-0106, Bass. It's an application by Harold Bass on behalf of Evresto Falcon Reyes and Karina Guerrero Hernandez. Ms. Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The second item that we have is a request for a variance on the UDO Section 1.4.7.b, the accessory structures. That section of our UDO states that accessory structures on parcels less than 2 acres must be either to the side or the rear of the main dwelling. April? This is the slides. It's an overview of that staff report. It's not going to go verbatim to that. This information is in there, but it's not going to be verbatim for you to read the packet. Well, the staff reports are given ahead of time so that you can review and study the information. The slides are given as an overview to digest that information in the public session.
Ready, Ms. Williams.
Thank you. So the applicant, Mr. Bass, is here on behalf of the property owners. They're requesting a variance from this section to allow for an alternate location for a garage due to the constraints of their parcel. The map showed on the screen is where the subject property is, and the address is 254 Giles Lane. This property is designated as LDR, which is our low-density residential neighborhood. The property is approximately 1.11 acres and is located at Giles Lane, as we stated. The applicant is trying to build a garage near their home. However, due to the topography of the rest of the property, they can't put it to the side because there's power lines there, or to the rear because there's inclines there. So they're asking to put it slightly to the side and in front of their main dwelling, and you can see the proposed location by the red arrow on the screen. The code in question is highlighted here, and it says that for parcels less than 2 acres, it has to be either on the side of the property or behind it, and they're asking for something outside of that. So as staff, we cannot approve that because it contradicts the UDO. So again, they're just requesting to be able to build on their property in a different location that is required by the UDO. Already said all of that. That's repetitive. And that is all I have. I will turn it over to the applicant to give more information. If you have any questions of me, you can ask as well.
Right. Is the applicant,
I've got a question.
excuse me 1 minute. Mr. Williams.
April, Giles Lane, is that a public roadway or public drive?
It's private. It's
It's a
private
private
from
drive.
what I saw. It's got a blue sign on it.
Okay. Okay, cool. Yeah, never mind.
I'll explain that.
Anything else for me, gentlemen?
The reason I said that, county puts up green signs. State puts up black signs on top of a stop sign. Private roads are blue signs.
I understand that.
All right, sir. If you will, give your name and address for the record.
I'm Harold Bass, 1334 Pfeiffer Road, Kings Mountain, North Carolina, 28086.
All right, sir, if you will, raise your hand and be sworn in.
Hang on 1 minute, I'm just trying to get his presentation up.
I'm looking for it right quick.
There you go.
Do you, Mr. Bass, I believe it is, affirm that the testimony you're about to give is truth and nothing but the truth? Thank you. You may proceed. All right, sir.
Thank you for your time.
Please speak into the microphone.
Hello, my name's Harold Bass. I work for F&G Construction. I'm here tonight to ask for a variance to build a garage on my client's property. My clients purchased the home in 2018, and the home was already there at the time. They did not build the home at that time. They have no plans to move anytime soon. They'd like to be able to build a garage and use a garage on their property. And they also would like to thank you for their time and consideration in this variance. The one, and this is kind of redundant, you've already went over this Unified Development Ordinance, a 147B, due to the size of the property. We've already discussed that. This is not to scale, this picture here, but the setbacks for the garage would be 40 by 30, 40 being north-south, 30 east-west on the property, and it's, as you can see there, it's 51 feet setback to the north side, and to the south side, 37 feet. The home is located, I apologize, this drawing's not the scale, but it is
Right.
Close to the property line. So building a garage to the east of that, you can see that to the right side of this photo is the east side. The property line is doesn't give enough room for a structure or for the setbacks and the electrical connections on that side of the property. And for the other side, it does slope down, and the septic tank and the septic field is on the west side of that property. And so that we found, if we could build it in the proposed location, that this is from the center, this is looking west, that it would be a good level spot to put that property there. It would only be 1,200 square feet footing, square feet for the property. And also, the unique layout of this property and location is going to prohibit putting it at the rear and the side due to the space constraints. The west side would interfere with the septic field.
Sir, I'm having trouble following you with east, west, north, and south on this map.
Oh, I'm sorry, sir.
So I'm not quite certain I've got oriented.
Well, here, the top of the the parcel is the north, the bottom part is the south, the west is to the left, and the east is to the right. Other properties in the vicinities, they're not all the same. There's actually the property that, there's one property that's on the east, well, to the right side, the rear, and the west side of the property, it's all the same lot. And then to the south of the property, it's to an adjacent neighborhood, but it's to the rear of that neighborhood, and there's a line of trees and a fence that separate there, and Giles Lane ends at the property in question. So, in conclusion, we believe that we've met the standards for review for the grant this variance. We hope that you do as well. We believe we've demonstrated, extraordinary exceptional conditions of this property. It's unique to this property just by the nature of where it's at. Without the variance, my clients will not be able to build and enjoy the use of a garage in that, for the property. And we believe the building of the proposed garage will not cause any detriment to the adjacent properties. There's nobody else around them at the moment, and it probably could not even be seen by the adjacent neighborhood to the south. So, thank you very much. Do you have any questions?
Yes, sir, I've got one. The paperwork that I've read through on this property, and I have visited the property also, and I agree, he's in about the best spot he's going to be with that house sitting where it's at down in the hole. But my problem is, why does he want a two-story garage? Is he planning to rent the upstairs? What can I say that he's going to do with that?
Well, I'm the contractor, and we were discussing that before we applied, put in the permit. And when we went through the cost of adding, HVAC, electric, and everything else that would be required, we decided the cost was prohibitive to do that. But they would like to use it for storage, put a two-story garage in there.
Okay. Just a quick question that I had on my mind.
Yeah, it was really good plans, and then when we started breaking it down financially, it was not going to be feasible for them to do that.
Mr. Chair, I got a couple questions.
Yes, sir, Mr. Bowles.
First question I have is I'm hearing of this septic system and drain field located to the west of the property. Is there a actual survey which shows the location of this tank and the drain field, or is there other paperwork maybe from DHEC or DES?
I do not have that.
That would be in his,
I apologize, I do not have that.
the owner would have that in his closing package. That's required at closing to show the layout of the septic tank based on the house itself.
Yeah, the layout and of course where how it conflicts with this proposed garage structure. And another question I have has to do with looking at Lancaster County's GIS imagery and so forth this afternoon and so forth. In the far left back of the property and so forth, there's some feature or improvement back there. What is that? It looks.
Oh, they feel like a patio.
A patio?
Yes, sir. And like a little fire pit is back there.
I've seen the same thing.
Could that have been a location for this garage?
We didn't consider that.
It's not the conflict with the septic system?
I think it is in that same field right there, but I don't have a way to show you that right now.
The tank would be laying back across there. He couldn't come up where the garage he's planning on now due to the lay of the land is the fall there. The tank itself would be within 10 foot of the house. And I'm not sure, is that a 3-bedroom home that he's in?
Yes, sir.
Then it would have at least 275-foot line, which would be, or possibly more, 125-foot lines, 3 of them probably, and that would be far enough away from the area that you were talking about with the patio type thing they've got down there. But it would not be coming up that hill to where he's planning that garage, so. All right, any other questions?
In between the dwelling that's there now,
Falconberry.
your client's dwelling, and that subdivision to the south, what is that barrier, or is there direct view to that subdivision, or is it?
There's bushes and there are trees. There's a line of trees there. I mean, you can see the other homes, but it's pretty much, it's not a direct view.
It's just a natural tree buffer.
Yeah. Thank you.
Anyone else? Thank you, sir. We will now consider ourselves in public hearing on this matter, and no one has signed to speak to this, so we will consider ourselves out of public hearing. Find my place. Y'all have to pardon me, I'm new at this. This is far from being the planning commission, I tell you.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir, Mr. Bowling.
can I ask staff another question?
Help yourself. Ms. Williams?
The orientation of the property, considering that the way what you're determining is the frontage, the front and so forth, so therefore that helps with the alignment of whether the garage meets with the code or not and so forth. I guess it's the Giles Road is the frontage right there, so that's the front of the property, right?
Yes.
Yes, sir. Yeah, that's where the address is, and that's where it fronts. And it kind of dead ends kind of there.
And that's all, that's the only question I had, is that you're using Giles Road as to define the frontage, the front of the property.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Alden?
It's okay. I've been called worse. I'm not that familiar with that area. Typically with the newer subdivisions that have happened recently, there's a requirement for a stub out or for a connection, but I don't think that one is. So my gut would be to tell you, no, there are no current plans to extend that road. But that could change. That's not written in stone, and that could change at the whim of council or anything that comes up in the future. But as of right now, no, sir.
Just one question. The placement of this proposed garage setbacks, it would be required to meet setbacks from sideline, right?
Yes, sir. And that's why it's not feasible to put it on the side of the house over there, because you couldn't put anything in that setback and it would cross the property lines or be way too close. So they have more space on that side of their property because of the location of the home.
Okay. You're talking about the west side versus the east side?
Yes, sir.
The area that they've got cleared and leveled off, and from what stakes I could see, they are basically off of the right-of-way far enough and the sideline. And I do believe that Giles Lane runs past that area far enough that I'm not sure, but I think it could be considered the stub out. I know he's got a pretty good sized boat parked on down there, and the road continued down a fair amount before it ended, so if that helps. Anything else?
I have a question for the applicant. Is that doable?
Sure it is. Mr. Bass?
Just a quick question, Mr. Bass, and thank you. I'm looking at this simple drawing that you have here.
Yes, sir.
And then the intention then would be to connect that driveway into the garage area here?
Yes, sir. Well, currently they have like, it's a gravel turnaround. It kind of goes right in front of the, where the proposed spot for the garage and in front of the house as well.
No intention to connect to Giles Road?
No.
Yeah, they've got,
I mean, not
it's
that's
all
already
gravelled
there.
in at this point, so. Anything else? Thank you, Mr. Bass. All right, any discussion among yourselves?
No, sir. I would like to kind of put out or discuss this Giles Road now. If Giles Road was just a driveway, not a road, would that change the orientation of this property such that the front is now different for this property?
Why are you speculating?
Because a driveway is different than a roadway.
At this
Whether it's
point-
public or private roadway and so forth. Is this, when I'm looking at a plat that was attached here and so forth from 1982 and so forth, shows, of course, it shows a public gravel road, but is that a dedicated right-of-way, or is that just an easement?
That's not a county road, I don't think. I might
But
be
if it
wrong,
was,
but I
if it was
don't
just a
think so.
driveway, would that change the semantics on how this property would be oriented?
UDO stays the same, in my opinion.
It's kind of a moot point at this point because it is a private drive, and you can't take away a drive that's listed without going to court and having a road closed. So for all intents and purposes of this, it's a road, it's a drive.
What if the road were closed? And it's still a
If-
driveway?
There's certain requirements for that. If there's any other properties on that road that use that road to get to their house, you can't close a road. If the county doesn't, if it's for the safety of the public, you can't close it. And it's kind of a lengthy thing that somebody has to initiate. And
Are there any other homeowners that access to Giles Road?
I don't know for sure,
There's
but Allison
another
can
house
check. I
on the
think there
left.
are. I believe there are, but we can double
There's
check.
one
to be
on the
sure.
left as you turn in, down
Right.
on the left down there. And there's another property between the highway and him. So there is feasibly another property there that could be built.
What are you thinking, Ron?
Well, I'm thinking that if it's not a roadway, just a private drive and so
Yeah.
forth, then that could.
There are other properties that have access to Giles Lane. There are other
others?
properties that have, yes, that would have no other access to their property other than Giles.
Good to
So
know.
even if the applicant wanted to have it closed, we couldn't agree to that right now.
That's good to know.
Anything further from Ms. Williams? Please don't make it. She get mad at me. Thank you, Ms. Williams. We've already been in public hearing. That is discussion. All right, board members, there are 3 actions that can be taken and motions that can be made. You can postpone the vote until the next meeting, which is March 4, 2025, if the information provided is not sufficient to make a decision. You can approve or deny the variance as it is presented. You can approve it with stipulations and conditions. Now, are there any questions about those items? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I have a motion to approve from Mr. Falconberry. Do I have a second? I'll second it to bring it to the floor. Discussion, please.
think we need to have some conditions on this, and I don't know whether I'm right, as far as what happens with Giles Road into the future. That's still a question mark.
Well,
Is that relevant?
at this point, I can say this much. Lancaster County is not accepting any more roads and haven't for some time now. What would happen to Giles Lane in the future is beyond my scope because I probably won't be here before Lancaster County takes another private road in. So, any more comments?
Mr. Chair, I would like,
Yes, Mr.
I would like to,
Bowles.
I would like to question the moving forward with this, considering that one thing, we don't have a, good technical knowledge or good survey of, oh, yes, there is a septic system to the west.
Yeah, it's there and being operated right now.
We believe it is, but it's not, I mean.
That would have to be determined.
It has to
before
be
that
there
construction.
before CO's issued.
Yeah.
Yes.
They can't live in it without it. And the DHEC, or at that time, DHEC,
Right.
inspected and made sure that
But one of the arguments is that because it can't put, structure further back and so forth, it's because of the septic system.
Okay.
And so
Then-
not having that information,
I understand what you're saying, yeah.
And you can always amend the motion and request a copy of the septic tank permit. I mean, that's all you can do.
Or you could defer this to next time and ask for a copy of that DHEC permit to be presented.
I'd like to amend the motion to require that that we get the survey information or permit information from DHEC and so forth before we make a decision, so we'd like to defer this.
Ms. Williams?
So if that's what you would do, the easiest thing to do would be rescind that motion and then make a motion to defer to the next meeting and then require that documentation.
I'll make a motion to rescind that motion to approve.
The motion and second has been rescinded, which would,
And then I would like to make a motion that we defer this pending receipt of information showing the location of the septic system, DHEC information, DHEC permit information, so forth would suffice.
right, have a motion that the meeting be deferred, or this application be deferred until March 4, 2025 meeting, and copies of septic tank permits be presented at that time with approvals from DHEC. And of course, they're going to have their approval stamped on it. Do I hear a second? Second. I have a second from Mr. Alden. All in favor? It's unanimous. This variance will be deferred and heard again on March 4, 2025 at 6 o'clock. And we would need to see the septic tank as presented by DHEC and permitted and approved at that time. So do we need the 4 items? I did not think so. So at this time, do we have any further business other than the fact that, gentlemen, I appreciate your understanding, and staff and those in the audience. It is my first night here. I want to thank Ms. Williams and Ms. Allison Harden for the work that they've done trying to get me prepared, which they almost succeeded. So we will work further and try to be much better next time. And we did not in the earlier stages of the meeting, but I'll do it before we close. We want to thank our district representative, District 3, Mr. Billy Mosteller, for being here this afternoon. And thank you, gentlemen, for being here. And it's a pleasure to sit among honored guests. I will call you.
I wanted to tell you guys that this is the best discussion that I've been involved with since being at the board, so thank you.
Thank you. It's It's unusual after making the mistakes that I make, but I'm old and I'm prone to mistakes. I've got a good right arm right here on my left side. And people, we thank you for being here. We're sorry that it took as long as it has to get you completed, and we will move on from this point. Is there any further business that staff can divulge upon us? Seeing and hearing none, everybody shaking no. Do I hear a motion to adjourn? And a second, we are adjourned.
Seconded?
This is. And thank you for your kind words, Mr. Alden.